let us start with today's new chapter, vital statistics. So let us first learn the definition of vital statistics. Now, what do we understand by vital statistics? Previously this chapter was also called demography. So do you know what is the meaning of demography of a country? So demography actually defines for a country what is the composition, how the country is shaping up in terms of its population. So what actually makes up the country? You tell me. The birth of the new generation, death of older generations. Marriage is a very important matter for any human life, because these days marriage has been legalized. Okay, so all these things previously 1000 years. Okay, so it has been, with civilization these things have been legalized. Even previously we did not record the births and the deaths, but these days we are recording the births and the deaths of the population of a country, right? It is mandatory. So these are the things that actually define the population, and these are actually the vital events of a human life, right? The death, the birth, the marriage, then the educational startup, right? When a child is going for his or her first school sessions, right? So these formulate the primary basis of any human civilization. And statistics, as I have already told you, is always dealing with human population and human civilization, right? Mostly. So in proper terms, what is the definition of vital statistics? The term vital statistics is used to mean numerical data. Statistics means numerical data. Now, what is this numerical data particularly related to vital statistics? Numerical data related to the vital events of the population of a region, like birth, death, sickness, marriage, etc. Sickness is also known as morbidity. Okay, and death is known as mortality. So any data that relates to these vital events of a population, human population, is known as vital statistics. Okay, birth, death, sickness, marriage. The major 4 informations are required to understand the shape of the human life. Okay, it starts with the birth, then there is some sickness, marriage, sickness, and death, right? This is actually projecting the human growth in a population. Okay, now in this chapter we will learn various methods to analyze such data. So you know, previously the churches, because statistics started in different regions of this world at different time points, but actually it started with people recording certain events. Okay, so the churches used to keep this record of death and birth, right? They used to baptize the child after their first or second birthday, before giving their names, right? And the deaths, because there was cremation process, so they used to actually record the deaths. So the churches in the medieval world, the middle era, okay, of the world, used to record this deaths and births. Okay, so from that there was this development that we can record this death and birth for understanding the development of our country. How do you understand? See, during the birth, we know that in India during this birth time, so many lives are lost to infants and also to the mother. But does this happen to the developed world? No. There is no such great, I can say. There is some bits of death everywhere, because with the birth, there is some amount of or some chance is always there for the mother's risk. There is risk of the mother's death or the infant's death. But in the developed countries, the science, the medical science and their facilities are so very developed that this rate has been brought down. Infant mortality rate or infant mortality rate or mother's health measures, these have been bettered. Okay, but in our country, this is not the case. You will find in every state almost that children have died due to this reason, due to jaundice, due to lack of blood availability, and so many other causes are there, right? So this actually depicts the growth and the measure of development of a country. So if a country can save its infants from the deaths, then the country is a developed one. We will call that country a developed one because it has actually, it is possible for that country to save their infants with the help of their medicines, with the help of their money, with the help of their policies. There are so many policies of the developed countries. They are so very concerned that we must not let our infants die in this way, right? So these things have actually become the coefficient of development of a country. Okay. So where do we get this data on vital events? Population census. Every 10 years in our country there is a population census from which we can get such records. Vital statistics registered, in West Bengal in different bureaus. Wherever there is a hospital, there are bureaus where you go and register your child's birth, right? So those are the hospital records and the bureau records and health service records, ad hoc surveys. Okay, from all these sources we can get the knowledge of this vital events. Now there are different measures of death rates. Okay, we will know about death rate and fertility rate in this chapter. Okay, fertility rate related to the women's fertility conditions and death rate related to the mortality conditions of a country. So there are different measures, and we will also study how these measures developed one after another so that we can get the maximum information from them, or it can be useful in different situations. So the first thing that we are going to learn today is crude death rate. It is called CDR, crude death rate or CDR. See, I have written it as CDR equals to D by P into 1000. Why 1000? Because, so what is this D? D is the total number of deaths, and what is P? P is the total population. Okay. Now, this total number of deaths out of how many things? Out of which cause? From all causes that occurred in the given region during the given period. So we have to specify which region and which period. Otherwise, how can I understand the death and the population growth will be different, right? So we have to actually specify whether it is Kolkata, whether it is Howrah, whether it is Baruipur area, or the time period, whether it is 2020 I am talking about, or I am talking about 2005. So I have to specify the region and the time period for which I am recording the total number of deaths. And then what is P? P is the total population. So you understand CDR of that given region during that same period of time. Now this
total population of the same region.
Total population of the same region. Okay, not of the whole country, but of that same region. So it's like a ratio, right? Death in this bigger set. It's a subset. Number of deaths is the subset out of the full population, which is the bigger set. Okay, superset. So it's like a ratio. It will be a ratio. Obviously, D will be much lesser than P. But suppose you are telling that 0.2 is the CDR of a country or of a region. So how can you during 2020? out of the COVID situation. Okay, so how will you interpret this result? 0.2. You need to a layman. How will he understand? So the layman cannot understand the meaning of 0.2 for a human death. So that is why they multiply it with the factor of 1000, so that 0.2 becomes now 200. Now to a layman it is meaningful that out of 1000 population, 200 people have died. Now it becomes meaningful. If you tell a person out of 1.2 have died, no one will understand. That is why they have brought in the multiplication factor of 1000. That out of 1000 people, 200 people have died in this region during 2020 out of COVID-19. Clear? Okay. So D and P we have understood, and the use of the multiplier we have understood. So CDR does not take into account the composition of the population. So this is the disadvantage of using CDR. So some statistician who is using this CDR has a disadvantage. What is it? See, I am just recording the total number of deaths and the total population in that area in that given time period for that particular cause of death. Okay, all causes of death. So all causes can be restricted to one particular cause of death as well. Right? I can take all causes of death into account, or if my register permits me, if they have recorded this is the number of death because of this particular disease, then I can understand that for this disease how many deaths were recorded out of the whole population, right?
Ma'am, as you said, the CDR, suppose the CDR is 200.
Right.
Out of 1000.
1000.
Then this 200 individuals have died.
200 individuals have died out of 1000, because 0.2 is very high death rate.
Percentage.
No, not percentage, because suppose it is 0.02.
Ma'am, then why are you multiplying into 1000? Because the whole population is already present. Means out of D by P, you got P is the total number of population. Why to multiply 1000? Total population is already there.
Right, but this D by P will be in always fraction, so it will be always in a point decimal. So no one will be able to understand that one out of 1%, 0.002 have died. Somebody will not understand. That is why 1000 is there. Why not 100? Why not in percentage? Because you asked a very good question. That why not in percentage? Because this death, I am talking about 0.2, but usually 0.2 is the case of COVID-19. But usual death rates are never in 0.2s. It is always in the terms of 0.0002. So if I multiply by 100, it will be 0.02. If it is 0.0002, if you multiply by 100, 2 zeros gone, so it will be 0.002. Even then I will not be able to tell somebody that 0.02 have died out of 100. So they have increased 1 zero more, because it is usually found that the deaths, that is this ratio, is in that order. So that by multiplying by 1000 we can obliterate the decimal point. It will come in integer terms. Okay, understood. That is why they have multiplied by 1000 and not by 100. Because even if after multiplying by 100, it doesn't come in integer terms. It is still in the decimal point. So somebody is telling me it is 2.9 have died out of 100. It is meaningless. So if I tell out of 1000, 29 have died, it will be meaningful, right? So in that order, they have. Why? How could they find this? Because they have seen this over the years, over their experience, that in the order of 1000, the ratios are coming. If I multiply by 1000, then I can get a proper integer number. Mostly, most of the cases. Okay. So that is the interpretation of CDR. But CDR does not take into account the age composition, the gender composition, the race, the occupation, the locality. So these are the defects, right? A population has to be divided into these groups. Otherwise, how shall I understand what is the male population, what is the female population, what is the age of the male population at which they are dying mostly due to COVID-19, what is the age of the female population that is dying due to COVID, right? So, these demerits of CDR take us to the next level of measure. Okay. So the next measure that we are going to read is specific death rate called SDR. You have to remember these terms as well, SDR, CDR, because these come in the university examination. Sometimes they may not actually mention the full term. They may mention a CDR, SDR, STDR, okay, specifically in the 2 marks questions, right? So what is SDR? SDR